Hello there, and welcome to The High Ground, a Doof bonus content show where we're bringing life back into the Jurassic Park franchise. I'm your Tyrannosaurus host, Reuben Morehouse.
I'm your Velociraptor host, Elliot Diebold.
And I'm your Indominus Rex host, George Diebold. I'm changing it up.
That was the wrong one to be, George. The most boring dinosaur.
So cool, guys. No, it's really cool.
Do you remember the Velociraptors plus T-Rex? That's what this dinosaur is, and that's cool, apparently.
It's also got bits of lizard and toad
frog
in it.
And cuttlefish and,
Sorry, it is kind of cool, though. I mean, we can talk about this. I don't know if we want to talk about this later, but it's dumb as shit, and it's lame. It's kind of cool, though.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like the idea of it's actually really cool, and then, like, when you actually see it, you're like, it just looks like another dino.
Yeah,
I do love.
Speaking of, let me do my segue. Speaking of different component pieces from the three previous movies merged together into a lifeless end product, should we talk about Jurassic World?
Yeah. The one really cool thing about the Indominus Rex's design is how far its jaw opens. I think that was a really cool idea to give it like big jaw. Like the Mummy proved this. Big jaw opens are scary and cool.
Mm.
Yeah. I liked that it had a lot of superpowers.
That it had the ability to manipulate other dinosaurs to do its bidding.
Yeah. But in terms of its actual appearance, I was like, it was so cool. Like all the things it could do were really cool. And then when you looked at it, you're like, it's a dino.
Well, and I think that that disappointment comes from the fact they're very coy with exactly what it looks like for the first half hour of the film. So it feels like they're doing that thing that a lot of horror movies do, where you're not quite sure what it looks like, and you're ready for this mic drop moment where they reveal it, and then it does come out, and it's just kind of like, I mean, that kind of looks like you crossed a T-Rex or the Velociraptor. Yeah, okay, like sure, like a Spinosaurus without the spine. Cool.
Yeah, I have a lot to say about this movie, and I guess we should wait until we get to the point where I've put this stuff down in the notes. But I want to start with just how conceptually stupid it is to have the Indominus Rex as the like villain dinosaur of this movie when it's fictional. Like, because the whole point of why Jurassic Park was cool and why dinosaurs are cool is because they were actual real life monsters, right? It's like Godzilla, but in the back of your mind, no, this actually existed. Not alongside humans, but kind of old-timey humans kind of theoretically could have run into this monster,
Well, especially
in your kid brain, that's what you think, I guess.
Yeah, because the franchise is essentially all about putting humanity in our place. We're getting too big for our boots. Yeah. We think we own nature. And Jurassic Park is kind of saying, no, nature's actually pretty badass and owns you back.
Yeah.
And that, as you said, that works because dinosaurs were a real thing.
Yes.
And so then it's kind of like, now we're just entering full Frankensteinian, like, we made a monster we can't control. Like, it just, No, I mean, I agree with you. But I think that's kind of my summary of this movie. Everything about this movie is lame and dumb and bad. But I still kind of had a blast the whole time. Like, this movie is the epitome of the popcorn genre for me. I was like, this movie is fucking stupid. But, like, when fucking Chris Pratt is riding his motorbike flanked by his pal Velociraptors, I was like, this is undeniably badass.
Elliot and I were like, this is really cool.
I was like, this is fucking stupid, but I kind of love it. And like that is the whole movie point to me.
Yeah.
Going back to the sort of genetic thing, I'm not sure whether I agree or disagree. I'm just going to start talking, but because I don't mind the idea of, because it's a natural step from we've done enough genetic manipulation that we're making dinos and now we're going to fuck around with the genetics to make whatever dino we want. Like, I think that is actually a natural progression.
Yes.
And then, in the end, I think nature still fucked them back. Like, this, man-made dinosaur ended up getting beaten by the T-Rex and the Velociraptor team up, which is another really fucking stupid thing that I absolutely loved.
And of course the Mesosaurus with the save.
I actually feel like it's a bit of I feel like it's a bit of a, like, again, an execution thing. Like, that concept is not terrible, but just the way it was done made it feel stupider than it was.
Like,
if that could have been done well, I think.
I think this brings me to my to my main point on this, which is this movie plays on this really interesting line where it's almost doing meta commentary on itself.
Yes.
Because there's a big through line where the reason they're making the Indominus Rex in the film is because regular dinosaurs don't do it for people. They need it to be bigger and badder, and like all the stuff with how soullessly the park is run and it's this money-making machine are all clear illusions. Like, it's clearly the writers venting their frustration at the fact they're having to take Jurassic Park and turn it into a soulless piece of shit action movie. Like,
it's almost like pre-defending itself against its criticisms. You know what I mean?
It's like, if you hated this movie, that's your fault.
Well,
you're a shitty audience.
No, it almost feels like the movie saying, look, I'm not what the old one was. I know I'm a soulless, money-grabbing piece of shit, but just try to have fun anyway. Or like, I don't know. It's weird. Like, this is the thing. It doesn't quite land for me because the movie still is that dumb and bad thing. So it's kind of like, okay, so you're aware of it, but like, not enough to not do it. Like,
it almost makes it worse. Like, there's that one scene where Jake Johnson is talking about how, like, oh, the original park was so good and this one's shit. And Bryce Dallas Howard is like, no, that was horrible. People died and stuff. And, you know, like, it's kind of a funny line or whatever, but it feels like the undercurrent of that is like, we know the original one was really cool and we're going to try and live up to it, but we kind of can't. And I don't know, it's just like this weird thing of like, just have some confidence in your own movie, guys. Like, you don't need that.
But they've even mythologized Hammond a bit in this movie. Like, Hammond is the guy who he was a dreamer and he wanted to make a park that was wonderful, and you know, now it's just a trashy theme park. And that feels like the writers of now talking about how cool Michael Crichton's book was, and then how great the movie was. Part of me is like, okay, but also, couldn't you have found a way not to make this shit? Like,
exactly.
I feel like you may be giving them too much credit. I'm not 100% sure the writers did any of this intentionally.
No, they have to have, though, because like, there's even the bit where they have a whole conversation where they're like, the Indominus Rex, we had to make it a new dinosaur, and it had to be all these parts, and they're like, because people want like cooler stuff, and that honestly just felt like, to me, Colin Trevorrow and maybe the other writers had gotten notes from the studio executives that they needed to do this, and this was them fucking like...
Yeah, maybe they actually wrote like a beautifully well thought out
I wouldn't go that far.
Michael Crichton style film that was actually really great, and then they got the notes and they just decided to go with more teeth. And what was the other thing? Like, you're not in control. I like to be in control.
Control is a big theme.
God, shut up about control.
It's worth noting metatextually, it's not that long since Colin Trevorrow came out and said, actually, this movie and all the later Jurassic World movies should never have been made.
Yeah. Which is part of why I've got this tinfoil that like this kind of movie was given to him and the other writers as a sort of, can you do a Jurassic Park, but also we need a new hook. It needs to not just be dinosaurs. And so that was why they wrote this movie, and they included all the stuff kind of meta commentary on it, but couldn't like I'm thinking like the Lego movie is an example of where I feel like somebody pulled this off, whereas like, because the Lego movie is an ad. It's a whole 90-minute film that's about how fucking cool Legos are, but it's also weirdly anti-capitalist in this way that like I kind of came out of the Lego movie and I was like, yeah, I feel like that kind of evened it out for me. Like I'm happy with this. Whereas this movie does not achieve that. This movie's like, I understand that I'm a soulless cash grab that has kind of ruined the legacy of the franchise that I'm destroying.
Full stop.
Yeah. It's like a murderer being like, yeah, I mean, I did kill those people, but I'm going to do it again. And it's like, well, it's good that you're aware, but like, stop doing murders.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird, isn't it? It tries to kind of toe the line of doing Jurassic Park well, but it just doesn't. Like, there was this one bit that really got me, which is about an hour in, after the Indominus Rex has already escaped and murdered people. There's a scene where the two kids like see some, I don't know, Stegosauruses or something, and the music swells and you're like, oh, it's like a majesty of nature moment. But it's after the dinosaurs already murdered people. And it's like comparing it to the original Jurassic Park where that happens and then it starts to go bad. But you get almost an hour in the original Jurassic Park of like majesty of dinosaurs stuff. You know what I mean? And they tried to put that in, but without really understanding what the purpose of it is, they put it after the dinosaurs already murdered people. And it's like, no. Those dinosaurs killed people.
Also, on the note of the like whole idea that, nobody cares about dinos anymore. Like, oh, they have to all have big teeth. You cannot seriously be telling me that like basically everybody in the world has already been to Jurassic Park and is totally over it. Like that doesn't make any sense. People still go to zoos. I don't need the lions to get bigger to go to the zoo. And like, you know, people still
to be fair, I would go to the zoo that had 20-foot tall lions.
Well, yes, of course.
So there's one zoo in the whole world that has dinosaurs. Like,
sorry, I do agree with you. I do just have to say though, if there was like zoo people, if you're out there listening and you have this technology, I will go to your zoo if you bring back saber tooths and shit. But
yeah, it's like who are these? Like, what is this tiny segment of the population who are so over dinosaurs? Like, and who cares about them?
Yeah.
There's no way they're running low on business.
I guess this is why I have to assume that it is a metaphor for the film franchise.
Because it makes no sense.
Yeah, because it makes no like. I agree. There's no way that in 20 years people are like another dinosaur. Like, I don't give a fuck. It's like we went to the zoo here when they got a new
since
spider.
Jurassic Park, not 20 years since the park opened, because there was a huge segment where it was an unpopulated islands. Like,
Whereas like it does make sense for the film franchise. It's like I do think if Jurassic World had just been advertising itself as just dinosaurs, there probably would have been a segment of the population who was like, well, I've already seen Jurassic Park and may not have gone. Whereas it was like, oh, like, you know, they Frankensteined a new one. I feel like was what all the ads were doing. And they're like, I can see why the executives were able to convince themselves that was more interesting to people.
Even they don't even need to Frankenstein a new one, right? Even if you just bring back one new species of dinosaur every 3 years or whatever, that'll be enough.
They already did that. That was, you know, boring.
But they can just keep. It's not like surely there's enough dinosaur species that they do one every 2 or 3 years. That'll last them at least 50 or 60 years of events, right?
Yeah, and then they make a dinosaur and they stick it, and it's so incredibly dangerous that it's in this cage that they can barely maintain, and it has the ability to camouflage, so fucking nobody's ever going to see it.
Let's talk about the whole plot with the building of the Indominus Rex in a bit, because I have extensive notes on this. It's nonsense.
It makes no sense.
I haven't even mentioned our protagonists yet, who are 2 children who are really annoying.
Oh, do we have to talk about them?
They go on a holiday to Jurassic World, and we get very brief moments where we see Judy Greer and Andy Buckley, and it's like, oh my god, this is going to be actually a really interesting movie because it's got 2 people that I actually want to see on film, and then they never show up again.
They do right at the end.
Sure.
for
I
a
guess
scene.
that counts.
Yeah, the kids are just right from the get-go. Like, this is what cements this film in your head as like, oh, this is nothing but the most bare bones popcorn action movie, because we get introduced to horny teenage boy and nerdy teenage boy, and that's really all their characters ever amount to.
They're really what, like, God, why are they the protagonists of this movie? Because you think on the poster it's going to be, you know, Bryce Dallas Howard and Chris Pratt, and I guess those are also protagonists, but they get about the same amount of screen time as the children, and the children are so boring.
But it gets the kids demographic in, Reuben. Kids love them, probably.
Kids love dinosaurs.
You have to have children in Jurassic Park. There's always a child character in Jurassic Park.
In the previous Jurassic Park movies, the child character, let's be real, has been like a plot device, and that's fine. That's what they should be. Like, that's not a bad thing.
Can I tell you what was a huge relief, though, was that they didn't, at the start, it felt like they were going to hone in on, like, oh, these brothers don't get along very well. Yeah. And then they were going to, and they didn't go down that road. They just kind of mostly got on the whole movie and were, like, kind of normal sibling-y relationship.
I think they cut it out. I think that it feels like it was going to be more of a thing, and then in test screenings, people were like, we hate these kids, and they were like, cut as much as you can, and there was still too much left.
But I was like, I'm so glad I don't, like, because there was even one scene where I just said to Elliot, I was like, this now feels like an episode of Supernatural, and it felt like it was going to be worse. It felt like it was going to be worse, and we got a lot less of that.
Yeah. I mean, that's, 15 seasons. Of course, I want another entry in 2 brothers fight over dumb shit no one cares about. I also just thought it was funny because this is a movie, and it reminded me a lot of Episode 7 of Star Wars, where in a lot of ways this movie is just trying to be a 21st century kind of remake of the original. Like, this movie has a number of beats which do directly echo Jurassic Park, a lot of references. And episode Episode 7 Star Wars was kind of the same. It was just a better version of Episode 4. And they did that to the extent where the two children here are like the nephews / niece in the last one of like the person who's running the park, and they've had to come here because their parents are getting divorced. And I was just like, the real way to save lives in this universe is apparently to prevent the siblings of Jurassic Park managers from getting divorced, because that's what leads to a loss of life.
Yeah, you're right. Jurassic Park / World needs to invest in on-staff marriage counselors for the siblings of their employees.
Yeah. Like that is the biggest risk to this park, is siblings of people in charge getting divorced.
I mean, and Malcolm himself. Like, remember, his child ended up coming along because she felt neglected by him, and he's had about 1,000 divorces.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, marriage counselling is the answer to Jurassic Park.
And then in the third one, the mum and dad were divorced, although that didn't really pertain to the plot.
It's just this
weird.
No,
he went to the island with his mum's new boyfriend.
Yeah.
Divorce is bad is actually the moral of all of these movies.
Divorce causes dinosaur outbreaks.
It's like you want to kind of hone in on it as a theme or something, but I don't think these movies are coherent. I think it's just a lazy plot device more than any kind of recurrent theme.
It's easy drama. If what it tells the child brain is that if your parents get divorced, you're going to get attacked by a dinosaur.
And it's your fault.
Yeah. It'll be your fault.
Reuben, I see you've written a note about something that Georgia and I also both called out and we need to talk about, which is the opening scene for this movie.
Yeah, because obviously the opening scenes in the Jurassic Park movies is always kind of like a horror teaser, right? To let us know, hey, this movie's going to start with a bit of dinosaur majesty and human drama, but don't worry, there's going to be a horror monster dino coming later. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this movie instead opens with just a shot of a dinosaur hatching, and it's so nothing. It really is. It's literally nothing. All it does is spoil looking at the dinosaurs for later, which this movie is so terrible about. And we'll get to that a bit more later.
Not a single person was killed or maimed in the opening of this film, and it was very disappointing.
They could have even had the baby, like, do a little
jump
love
at the
bite
camera
on
or something. Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say do a love bite on like a gloved finger. Yeah, it's especially of all the movies not to have an action set piece at the start.
I know.
This is the weird one because this one is the only good part of this movie is the action scenes, and even then, good is a strong word for it. They're very fun, but they're stupid. Like stupid fun is the name of this movie's game, and so it is just weird to me that the movie that is the most just action set pieces is the one that doesn't open with one. It's yeah.
It was really strange. It felt like such an obvious missed opportunity.
Like, you could have had the Indominus Rex kill a worker trying to feed it, or someone who fell into the cage.
Well, because we then have the first action scene, which is not too far through, which is the guy falling into the Velociraptor pit, right? Which is maybe 10 minutes into the movie or something. That should have probably been the opening to the movie.
Yeah, that would have been a good opening. You have this guy fall into the Velociraptor pit, and then Chris Pratt heroically saves him, and that's the introduction of his character. That wouldn't have been too bad.
Yeah, I mean, usually they're more separate than that. Like,
yes, it's true.
It could have. Well, you know what it should have been? It should have been the guy who he's replacing.
Include the protagonists, which is
yes, that's a good point.
Which is the children. So
fuck you. Yeah, it could have been that guy was replacing. Just show like, and make us scared of Blue and Co. God, I hate using that name out loud.
So the kids go to this island and I don't know, kind of get bored, or we get bored. I kind of was very immediately bored.
The little kid was excited,
right?
Yeah. Whereas the older kid is totally
apathetic. He's not even bored. He's just apathetic, and we're bored.
Yeah,
but it's like it's meant to be. Yeah, like again, it's that thing where it's like, teen, like he's a teen, so he's too cool for it. But you just sitting there, it's like, I'm sorry, mate, it's fucking dinosaurs.
I know.
Like, there's no way this kid is not hyped. I don't care. Like, I can even the worst of the like anti-learning shit bullies I can think of from my school would have been 100% on board with dinosaurs.
It's a dinosaur. Yeah, like come on, man.
But then they have the bit where they're watching the mesosaur, and he actually does get pretty into it. And I was like, what am I supposed to get from this?
Well, and then later he says, "Oh, let's go look at more of the interesting stuff." Like, he's just really hard to please, apparently. But I want to talk about the first thing they see, and the first thing we see when they arrive on the island is this big room that has a holographic dinosaur.
Oh, that's
so stupid.
Why? Like, that must have been so expensive to build. It must be so expensive to maintain. And this is the one place in the world with real dinosaurs.
I know. Why is it there? Who cares? Although I did think it was fun that the Mr. DNA thing returns.
Yes.
You see Mr.
DNA.
The holographic dinosaurs, like, the closest I can think of to a reason for it is they use it right at the end of the film to distract some of the dinosaurs later by putting a velociraptor there, like a holographic one, and it throws off, I think it was the Indominus Rex, something for like a minute. Absolutely not worth that payoff.
Yeah. Can we also talk about, we get an iconic moment where the kids walk out onto their balcony and the classic do 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 do, the music kicks in, and it's just a drone shot of the resort with no dinosaurs in view. Like, it's just a shot. It is just a shot of like a beach resort, and I was just kind of like, why? Are they trying to, like, nobody gives a shit about the resort, man?
Are we supposed to be
a dinosaur?
Like, feel the majesty of the cash out?
Yeah, this movie is so dumb.
We haven't even talked about the fact that these guys are here to see their aunt, right?
No,
Bryce Dallas Howard, and she just has zero interest in these kids, and it's so funny. Like, I have no idea why she's agreed to this. She has zero intention of spending any time with them. Completely fobs them off right from the get-go onto her personal assistant, who has even less interest in them than she does.
My kind of canon for the first half of this movie, and I don't know if this is disproven it by the movie or not, but I kind of assumed this is what happened, is the parents were just like, we're getting a divorce. We need to kind of sort our shit out. We'll get our kids and send them on a trip to Jurassic World.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, like, my sister works there, so that'll be good. And, like, you know, Judy Greer thought that the sister would be taking care of them, and the sister thought that they would just be going to the park and she'd, like, see them a bit. But they didn't kind of, their wires were crossed in a way that Bryce Dallas Howard didn't think that she would actually have to spend time with them, because she didn't take time off work. So, and she's like the CTO or the CEO or whatever of the COO of the park. So clearly, if she didn't take time off work, she's not going to have time to hang out with them.
I think my headcanon's pretty close to that. I definitely think Judy Greer forced this to happen. I think...
Yes.
And they didn't communicate what her expectations
were.
Yes,
I reckon they probably did. Bryce Dallas Howard strikes me as one of those people, like, well, her character in the movie strikes me as one of those people who was sort of like Judy Greer was really pushing this, and she just sort of was like, yeah, it sounds good, and I'll make time. But she's too much of a workaholic that she didn't. Like, so I think there was theoretically the idea that she would take time off work and would hang out with them,
but just never did.
But then there was too much going on.
Yeah, so, exactly. Like,
I can relate to her a lot, especially when she just seems to be like, when she's asking the kids, she's like, "When do you sleep? Do you have different bedtimes?" It's like, what is a child?
It was very Georgia interacting with anyone under the age of 15.
Which,
energy.
as we all know, that I learned from Alan Grant from the original Jurassic World.
And she doesn't know their ages, and like clearly she's not actually really interested in hanging out with them.
I love that bit where Chris Pratt's just like, so you don't know your nephew's age. She's like, one of them is like high school age.
He asks her how old they are, and she's like, well, one's about this tall. Like, that is a genuinely funny moment.
Yeah.
Going back to what you said, Reuben, about like the majesty of the park from this drone shot, I do want to give credit where credit is due. This park looks fucking sick.
I mean, it looks like a nice theme park, but it's just kind of like...
Oh, no, don't get me wrong. I fully agree with your point on that shot and how that totally misses the whole idea of what that music is for.
Yes.
But so this is just an aside. I do just want to call out, like, we see a number of attractions. The fucking dinosaur petting zoo, genius.
Yeah. Well, okay, no, I want to talk about that, because one of the dinosaurs in the petting zoo, I'm pretty sure, is one of those Compsognathuses, right?
Yes, yeah.
And
they've killed people.
Those have killed, like, it's not like those are baby ones of the ones that have killed people. Those little ones kill people at that size. Like, why are they there?
But in big groups, as long as they're only in small groups, I think they're
guess.
fine.
Maybe they've been socialized to be good.
Also, I mean, like goats have killed people, and we put those in petting zoos. So
but you don't put piranhas in petting zoos.
I once watched a documentary about cows killing people and how many cows.
Oh shit!
How many people cows kill a year? People kill a lot more cows per year than cows kill people.
We're for sure winning. Yeah.
But cows are beating sharks for sure.
Whoa,
good on them.
Yeah.
Well, in fairness, there are a lot more cows than sharks, so I guess that tracks.
Also, they're on land, which is where humans are.
There's a lot more crossover of location.
As Sharknadoes become more common with global warming, it might even out a bit.
Did you hear about the world's first cow-nado that happened down in Florida? So gotta watch out.
No, but I believe it. But yeah, no. So the petting zoo is also brilliant. So the bit where the flying dinosaurs escape later, and one of them picks up some of the petting zoo dinosaurs, fucking great.
So sad.
But also, we see a scene where people are doing a little kayak tour, and they're kayaking in amongst the dinosaurs. Like, fucking, you would pay thousands for that. It's genius.
Yeah.
And,
how can this park be struggling when it has things like that? It doesn't need the
but they also there was a bit where like in near the hologram. So this must have been the part of the park that was done by the dumb people. Next to the hologram dinosaur, there was a bit where they had some kids were sort of sitting on like a fake like archaeological fossil dig site, sort of like brushing away to expose the bone. I was like, how the fuck do you maintain that? Does somebody have to come and pour dirt back on there like every 10 minutes?
Yeah, probably.
It makes no sense.
I reckon that exhibit only exists because that was the only way they could get Alan Grant to endorse the park, is they included a digging up dinosaur bone exhibit. Because it's funny to me that you would fly all the way to this island in Cuba or wherever it is, Costa Rica.
For fake dinosaur shit.
Yeah, just go to Jurassic Park and then do the part that is the museum about dino DNA. Like, no, I'm sorry, I'm going to kayak with the fucking dinosaurs. I'm going to hop in a gyroball. Again, the gyroballs are the third one I wanted to bring up as like fucking cool as. They're great for the action set piece, but also the idea of being able to gyroball through actual dinosaurs. I was like, Hammond, eat piles of shit. Like yours was like a shitty zoo. This is a theme park.
Yeah.
And really, that is what this movie is too. This movie is all the flashy shit that the old ones weren't.
You know, I quite liked the guy they had who was like the Hammond replacement.
Yeah,
I forget his name now, but he was quite good. I really liked him in this movie.
I liked the setup of the Dreamer. Like he was John Hammond's successor, especially as the Dreamer. Although they kind of idealize that a lot more than Jurassic Park did. Jurassic Park was pretty critical of Hammond. And they set up him in contrast to Bryce Dallas Howard as the money woman. And I think, it would have been more interesting because a huge chunk of this movie is essentially the movie challenging like Bryce Dallas Howard is the corporate suit who only thinks about money. And
don't mention her clothing.
And she needs to like learn about the magic of life, and Chris Pratt and his dick are going to show her that. But I think it would have been more interesting if they'd done the other half of that too, and like the owner Dreamer guy had to face reality a bit more, because the movie very much comes down on the side of the dreamers and the creatives. And I'm like, I think it would have been more interesting to challenge both sides.
Well,
which is kind of what the original did.
Yeah. Let's not forget, the way that this character leaves the film is he says, I bet none of your generals rode into battle with you. And they go, oh yeah. And then he immediately dies. And I couldn't help but think that that's just a pure criticism of him being so idealistic and showing immediately how that's shit. Because that's the reason that generals don't go into battle, is because they'll die. And then Park will go to shit. And that's exactly what happens. It was so funny to me.
That's true.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, maybe I just didn't really pick up on it. Because you're right, it's him being gone that allows Wilson Fisk to take the park over.
Yes. And it's not like it's weirdly, I don't think the movie does a lot of work to connect those ideas of him going, I'm going to ride into battle with you. Oh, we're dead. Whoops. And then shit goes bad. Like,
no, but you're right. It is there.
It's I don't know.
On that.
It's this weird thing where like the movie almost wants to have it both ways in some ways, where it wants to be like, on the side of the idealists and the people who love nature and shit, but then actually writes it so that the events don't bear that out, but doesn't kind of
address it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like the other one that I kind of thought was really funny was Wilson Fisk. He's like, oh, we're going to use the raptors to take down the Indominus Rex. And then, you know, BDH and Chris Pratt are like, oh, that's terrible. No, we can't do that, blah, blah, blah. And then they do it. And then it kind of works. And it especially works because then Bryce Dallas Howard goes and gets another dinosaur, the T-Rex, to help take down the Indominus Rex. So, like, takes that idea even further. And that's what saves the day. But still, Vincent D'Onofrio is the villain for wanting to have done that, even though it worked. It's very weird.
Well, she was just like cleaning up his mess, Reuben. It's very different. Very different.
Not really. Like, his plan worked. He did save the day. I don't know. But again, like, he's the villain, even to the extent that when people are getting eaten by the pterodactyls or whatever, he stands on the roof and smiles about it. It's just so weird. The movie is like, no, he's the villain, but actually then has it play
I kept
the way where
waiting,
he was correct.
Because there was the bit where his plan failed, like when the Velociraptors decided to side with the Indominus Rex for some reason. But then, like you said, so initially it looked like his plan had failed, and you're like, oh, you're so stupid, Wilson Fisk. But then, like, it actually came back and did then work because of Chris Pratt. And you're like, okay, so actually it was a pretty good plan.
Blue and the T-Rex saved the day.
What I was supposed to have learned from this whole thing.
Yeah. No, I think that's, yeah. I mean, there was circumstances that changed, but not enough to really, as you say, Joe, not enough to really help you come away with like, so what did we learn from this?
Yeah.
Like, I think Chris Pratt is the other character, like, because this is the sort of role that Chris Pratt excels in. Like, I actually think he suits the role of this character perfectly. Like, as much as I don't really like Chris Pratt as a person, he was born to play this kind of role, but his character is another one where I'm like, he's kind of set up as an opposition to Bryce Dallas Howard, and they only use that to establish like opposites attract kind of chemistry that they really force in there. I didn't feel it at all, but like it would have been interesting again to see him have to reconcile that sometimes Bryce Dallas Howard's character has a bit of a point with her like control money side, because you need that to some extent. Like there's just a nuance missing from the sides there that would have been, you could make a good movie out of these ideas, which I feel like is the fucking tagline of the High Ground show, is like, there's stuff here you could have made a cool movie out of and you didn't.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting to me to come into this and go away from it being like, oh shit, Chris Pratt was actually really good in this. Like,
yeah, he is really good.
I guess it's just the like dirtbag with a heart of gold characters that he does really well at. Like the two roles that I still like him in, I guess, would be this and fucking Guardians of the Galaxy. But then when he tries to be like the morally upstanding character with no dirtbagginess, I guess it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I think like Elliot made a comment when we were watching it about like right when she first came on, Bryce Dallas Howard's acting being not awesome. And it's funny because I quite like Bryce Dallas Howard. Like, I think she's pretty cool. She's done a lot of cool stuff. I haven't seen her in a lot of movies though, but I was like, gee, like she's not super convincing. Part of it's her character. I loathe her character. Like everything that she wears makes me want to vomit. And I'm like, not really a fashion person, but her outfit for the whole movie, it makes me absolutely nauseous. Like, it's disgusting. Anyway, and then and like I was kind of like, oh yeah, her acting's not that good. And then it went to the very next scene, I think, was where we were introduced to like Chris Pratt's character and Vincent D'Onofrio came on. And it was just like such a contrast. Like their scene was so good. They were both really well cast. And it was a really well done scene. And I was like, and then it went back to Bryce Dallas Howard, and I was like, God, there's nothing in her character. Like she's so wooden, and it was, interesting because.
I mean, the topic all over Twitter right now is Nepo babies, and this is a fun flashback for those of you not listening on the Patreon feed, because that'll have been 6 months ago for you now. But the current hot topic is Nepo babies, and obviously BDH is a Nepo baby.
What's a Nepo baby?
Like nepotism baby.
Oh, okay.
Kids who get where
I'm
they got.
comment on that.
But
Did Ron Howard do any of the Jurassic World movies? They feel like it was that kind of movie that he would have done.
Oh, I mean, he could have EP. I don't know. But like, I guess the thing is like, obviously there are a lot of nepo babies who like are often still talented. Like that's the weird thing about this is because they grow up in the industry that they're also quite good. And like, yeah, this is the thing with Bryce Dallas Howard is it's kind of like the episodes she directed of The Mandalorian and Boba Fett were fucking sick. Like,
yes,
she's really good behind the camera. We're gonna do a Yaddle update later. She's
great.
Yaddle.
Wait, she plays Yaddle?
She is the voice actress for Yaddle. And I think she was very poorly cast, but her voice acting was fine. I just think it was an awful choice.
That's fair. But like, I guess it was just like, because like, watching her in this, like, I haven't seen her in much, like Georgia said, but like knowing that she was behind the camera for specific episodes of The Mandalorian and Boba Fett and seeing her in front of the camera here, part of me was just like, oh, you gotta keep to the directing. Like I thought she was much better at that. Like, yeah.
So are people, I haven't seen all this Nepo baby stuff. Are people like for or against it or just discussing
Just pointing out who are Nepo babies, because there are a lot of like Nepo babies who people didn't realize were Nepo babies. So that's just like the hot topic right now. So bring up people who are.
Just, because I come in from an industry, obviously, where there's a lot of what essentially would be a Nepo baby. It's funny because there's a lot of like people who are not like from medical families are quite critical of the fact that there are a lot of people. But I'm like, it makes sense. Like, I don't know about anybody else, but there were heaps of the girls at my school were like daughters of teachers, and a lot of them became teachers. And then a lot of us whose like, fathers and mothers were doctors but have gone into medicine. I'm like, doesn't it make sense? Like, aren't you genetically, like your parents were good at something and so they did it, and then they had you and you've got the same genes and so you were also good at it. Plus the cultural thing of you being raised in an environment where you thought that was a good idea. Like, I don't know. I just was like, I don't understand why it's so vexing to people.
No, the difference comes into when some of those areas are way more lucrative than others and it's harder to get into them.
Yeah.
Like, most of the focus has been on the entertainment industry and the online discourse. And that's easy to point out because it's like there are a million good actors out there, but the ones who get the gigs are the ones who have established networks because their family's already in it.
Oh, that's true. There's not like an exam you have to sit and get a minimum grade at the very least.
But again, this I think there is also a lot to be said for the upbringing you get as the kid from a doctor to help prime you to be a better doctor, and like whether we can do more to even that playing field, make it so other people get those kinds of opportunities too. But those are like wider discussions. I just like, did you know that the lead guy from The Boys is a Nepo baby? I didn't know that. That was one of the ones I learned.
The guy, what's his name?
You mean Carl Urban or like Jack Quaid? Or
no, Jack Quaid. Yeah.
Who's he related to?
I don't remember.
Right, I'm looking it up.
Sure.
Who's he? Meg Ryan is his mother.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
There you go.
Anyway, so yeah.
So I think the only other thing I've seen Bryce Dallas Howard in is the episode of Black Mirror that she's the lead in. And I remember her being very good in that. And I think that's the only other thing I know her from. So I don't know. Like, but you're right. Maybe it's just like the character she's given is like intentionally very wooden. And that's just not like Chris Pratt is the one that gets
she might be
fun.
playing it that way, but it was just so shit.
Also just, I mean, like Georgia, I don't think I can ever hate her outfit anywhere near as much as Georgia does. I
Why
genuinely
did it get you so much, Georgia?
I don't know. It's just gross.
But yeah, I mean, I certainly don't think it was doing her any favors. Like,
the other thing she's in, of course, she's Gwen Stacy in Spider-Man 3.
So Gwen Stacy in which Spider-Man?
In Spider-Man 3.
Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
That was Bryce Dallas Howard?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to read. I don't remember that.
I don't remember that at all.
We're gonna do those We're gonna do the Sam Raimi Spider-Man.
I've been rewatching them with Penny, who has never seen them. We're going through all the
because
she's watched the Tom Holland Spider-Man with me, but not the original Tobey Maguire or the Andrew Garfield ones. So we've started to work our way through them.
That's well, I mean, I hope you like them because I think we'll be doing them again for this show probably later. I
enjoyed we've watched the first one. I've enjoyed that so far. So
that'll be fun to see how that tracks. But yeah, I do not remember her being Gwen.
Yeah,
I have
me
an
neither.
image of Gwen Stacy in my head, but I think
You're thinking of Emma
Gwen.
Stone from
Yeah,
the
I think I am.
ones, I'm pretty sure.
But it doesn't track to Emma Stone in my head because it's blonde, but I think it is her.
I have some bad news, everybody. We have to keep talking about Jurassic World. So we've kind of we're at the point where we've just met Owen Grady, and we get this scene with
Sorry,
Chris
Owen
Pratt's
Grady
character.
is Chris Pratt's character,
Yes.
right?
I think this is the one time
names.
I wrote down the character's actual name as opposed to just their actor. Chris Pratt's character, and he's like ex-Navy turned, I don't know, dino handler. It doesn't quite track that career path, I think.
What did he do in the Navy? Like,
he was
Georgia
animal district.
Georgia made the joke that he trained the Navy SEALs, which I like.
That's a very good joke. But yeah, I want to talk about something that we introduced to conceptually here, which is we have this line when he's either he or Bryce Dallas Howard is talking to somebody, and they're talking about how one of the handlers recently died and the other one quit when we couldn't guarantee their safety. And that to me is a fucking insane line because, like, what the fuck are you talking about? if you can't guarantee their safety, why does this exist? And I just like. Again, the movie
Costa
tries to
Rica,
walk
baby,
this line.
no rules.
The movie tries to walk this line of like, we're really, really good at our jobs, but even so, we can't contain dinosaurs because because nature is just too powerful. You know what I mean? Like, but it's so easy to see all the ways that they fail in very, very simple ways in this. And it, like, I don't, zoos have fucking. We had a story about a month ago about like a gorilla escaping from Taronga Zoo here in Sydney recently, or something like that.
Yeah,
and so like, yes, nature finds a way, sure, but at least zoos in the real world, like, I guess their level of incident is so much lower, and they have like processes in place for this that Jurassic World just doesn't seem to have, and it's just so clear these people are terrible at their jobs.
Yeah, but I guess, because Jurassic Park really makes a point of the folly of the greed of people like John Hammond is that he cut corners.
Yeah.
Despite sparing no expense.
And which, again, doesn't make sense.
No, but like that movie sort of clearly establishes that the folly of the park is that they were cutting corners, and that is what kind of catches up to them and kills them. In this one, I agree. The more shit hits the fan, the more we realize they're not ready for this. They've cut corners, but the movie never really kind of latches onto that idea. Like it very much seems to stick to the idea that Park is in many ways a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, and like the way that BDH acts is like, we've thought of everything. We've got the top people. We're here. We know what we're doing. But they just don't. Like, clearly they don't.
They have like one machine gun that they can attach to a helicopter that a guy who doesn't have his helicopter license yet is the only person who can fly it. Like, wild.
Well, and then like one of the few people they have who really does seem to know what they're doing is Owen Grady. And so they didn't ask him to consult on the new dinosaurs' behavior because he's the dinosaur behavior expert. And it's like, so the one person who could do their job, you didn't even ask them for their help.
Yeah,
like it makes no sense.
But like the movie never like latches onto that. Like, it's weird because we see so many things fail, and it is seemingly because the park was not ready, but the movie never seems to be willing to admit that.
Yeah. It's very strange.
It is odd.
The
most bizarre part, like, because I think the angle this movie really does try to take is the angle of greed befalling man that this movie's obsessed with is the idea that, they're constantly trying to break boundaries and do the new things. And so this is why we have this angle of the Indominus Rex has a bunch of genes that are classified, so nobody, including the people who handle it, are allowed to know what abilities it has.
Insane. Absolutely insane. In what world?
Makes no sense. Like,
but then they went, because I was with you on that, but then they went back and explained it, because there was a scene with the like Henry and the new Hammond guy that was actually really well done. Like, I don't know, there was just this random scene between those two that had really good dialogue. And they essentially he was talking about that. He's like, oh, we spliced it with like this, we spliced it with this creature to get this one trait, but then unfortunately, when you do that, you may get this other trait because they tend to be linked and stuff.
Yeah.
But then later in the film, we find out that Henry was working with Vincent D'Onofrio's character, and they were actually trying to weaponize the dinosaur.
Yeah.
Remember, Vincent D'Onofrio also didn't know.
That's even stupider.
What do you mean?
I
agree. It's a dumb plan.
It's crazy. It's crazy to me that Henry was allowed to work with Vincent D'Onofrio to produce a monster whose details were classified from its handlers.
Oh, I don't think that was. I don't think they were meant to be doing that.
No, they explicitly say multiple times that
yes,
people aren't allowed to know what genes are in the Indominus Rex. The people running the cage aren't allowed to know what components it's made out of.
Yeah.
Nor does Vincent D'Onofrio, who doesn't know that it's got Velociraptor bits in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, seems like BD1 was the only person who knows anything.
Yeah, no, Henry knows, but like the whole point is this whole concept of the fact that Henry was allowed to produce this thing with no oversight and with the ability to hide what was in it is the point where it's like this makes no sense. Like it's crazy that this park doesn't realize that the military has their fingers so much in this pie that they were just allowed. Like it's bananas.
and surely it's better for everybody if people aren't killed at this park. Like. You know what I mean? Like, surely that's in their best interest.
Yeah, because this was meant to be an attraction. Like, what was the attraction going to be? Because you see the Indominus Rex, and then it has all these superpowers, and like a normal zoo then has a fact sheet being like, we put cuttlefish DNA in here, which is why you do blah blah blah. Like, but they weren't going to have that. Like, it was just going to be here's a dinosaur, but we can't tell you what it's about.
And I'm just enjoy not seeing the camouflage dinosaur that we promise is totally in this cage with all the superpowers that would totally make it containable and controllable. Like,
but also, but we won't tell you about those powers because that's classified. So he's a dinosaur that we're not going to tell you anything about. Have fun. Like it's a nonsense that the park allowed this to happen.
Yeah, and the whole point was essentially because they kept arguing like that it had all these. Well, it actually just weird superpowers kept cropping up, like that it had thermal vision and like all these other abilities, and the whole time
really
you're like,
blah, blah, blah.
Okay, they said bigger teeth. Like none of these things are things that you can see and be impressed by. They could just write on think this dino has thermal vision. You'd be like, oh, I'll take your word for it. Like, and then when you actually saw the dinosaur, it wasn't really that showy, and so it was obviously a military weapon because they had just done a shit job at designing a showy dinosaur.
Yeah, and my problem is the fact that the
park obviously a killing machine.
Let it get this far as like it was a bad attraction in so many ways from the ground up. This thing was going to be a shit attraction, but a great military weapon. It's like the oversight was so poor that they had this thing that was never good. And it's just crazy that the park didn't notice that this was happening. Whereas like I think the Velociraptor one is much better for this because there is the angle of like Chris Pratt's character is doing behavioral training on velociraptors, and like that's a cool, like that makes sense for a kind of scientific endeavor. Like that is the sort of thing people would do for their PhD in this world.
Well, and also
they're a real dinosaur.
If they escape, you can possibly control them and like you're training them better. Yeah, exactly.
And then the idea that Vincent D'Onofrio wants to come in and weaponize them like kind of makes sense as a thing where it was like, oh, well, the only reason they got money to do this was because the military was like, can we turn them into weapons? Like that's a scientific tale as old as time. It's like, oh, we get to do this cool thing because the military wants to see if they can use it. Like I fully back that plot line of the military involvement. It's the Indominus Rex one that I'm like, I'm sorry, there's no way that the park was okay with this.
Yeah.
Can we talk about for a second, I mean, I know it's stupid, but the dinosaurs in the military thing, like
it's nonsense.
Because Vincent D'Onofrio has the line that says something like, oh, drones can't search tunnels and caves, but dinos can. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, no. If I was going to search a cave and I had the choice between a velociraptor and a drone, obviously the drone is the pick, right? Like, why would you want to die? Anything a dinosaur can do, either a drone or a dog can do.
Yeah.
Right?
And the dog is not going to kill you.
Freak out
probably.
Kill you, yeah.
Well, like dogs have been getting like The only way his plan makes sense is if the military's really in this for like 100 generations of selective breeding for the more loyal ones, which he does briefly bring
He
up.
does mention that.
But it's like you cannot use these ones.
No,
like,
like we need just like people have done with dogs and foxes. This needs generations of selective breeding.
So stupid.
And it's just there's just no way the cost to benefit ratio for this will ever approach anything worthwhile, because it's like every velociraptor is going to cost you millions to produce. Couple of bullets is going to stop them. It's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense that they would be helpful in a military setting. It makes no sense. The only military setting in which they could possibly make sense is if there's an Indominus Rex that's escaped and nobody can stop it because there's no guns.
Dinosaur, and even that, I would say that the rocket launcher caused more damage than the velociraptors did. They just needed more shots.
They also needed an assist from two bigger, better dinosaurs. But,
So the Indominus Rex is smarter than the dumb shits that run Jurassic World, and it escapes. But I want to also call out the fact that, like, they have a bunch of cameras pointing at it 24/7. How did the Indominus Rex figure out that it could camouflage without them knowing? Like, did it just kind of innately know that and was also smart enough to be like, I better not use this until it's really important, because otherwise they'll know? Because, like,
the negligence in this part,
they think it's escaped, and so their first move is, one, drive to the other side of the island to check its tracking device, which again is bonkers. Two,
she's like, forgot that phones exist.
Just call them.
So it's very consistent in this film that the phone and radio connections are super spotty and people constantly losing signal, and that's no. They have tower. There's no way this part doesn't
ridiculous. But step 2 is go inside and open up some of the doors.
Yeah.
Instead of just like review the footage or something. Like, there's a bunch of cameras. Why? It's just
no fucking way I'm walking
so
in there.
bad at their job.
Rewind to the last time you saw the Indominus Rex, and then fast forward till you don't see it anymore.
And then
there's no way you go into the cage before you've definitely seen it and be not in the cage.
Yes. And then when it's in there, they're like running out, and the guy opens the huge door instead of one of the little doors that we've seen them go in through. Like, it's just at every step of the way they're terrible at their jobs. It just is ridiculous. It's a very silly movie.
It is like that moment though where they realize it is in the cage with them. Is like, again, I'm just going to keep coming.
It's good action movie stuff, but it
is a great oh shit moment.
That's true.
Yeah,
it's definitely when you take one step back from it, you're like, wait, that's nonsense.
So we then the dinos escaped, and now we have to get the kids in danger so that there's something for us as the audience to care about, I suppose. We spend more time with the children. They're really boring. We get a Jimmy Fallon video, which is kind of funny. I don't know. It's like, it's the exact kind of video that would be number 3 on YouTube's top trending. And so I guess that kept me entertained for a little bit.
It did feel like the sort of movie you would have in a park like this too. Like, that is exactly the kind of shallow bullshit they would do, is get Jimmy Fallon to do a stupid educational video for this gyro ball that no one gives a shit about.
I thought that was pretty fun.
Yeah, like, I think one of the things this movie does really nail is, like, that is absolutely what I would expect a functioning Jurassic Park to look like at every level.
Yes.
If we had this technology, all the shit we see, the huge amount of gift shops, like, there's this central part of the park that we do spend a lot of time in the movie is just full of dumb themed restaurants and like gift shops, and that absolutely
it's just like an actual shopping mall of, like, they had just branded like shops.
Oh yeah,
and you're like, probably, like, there was like a Pandora shop, and
You see, that's the other thing about the phone reception. There's no way there's not fucking T-Mobile or one of, like, Telstra
how are
or
people
some shit.
paying
Like,
if there's no PayWave? Nobody does cash anymore.
This is going to be a cashless restaurant kind of ecosystem for sure.
But imagine how much, like, T-Mobile, like, if you were the one cell phone carrier that works there, and you can be like, sign up for the Jurassic Park like telephone package. It's only $400 for 2 gigabytes a day.
Dino data,
like, they'd be all
the
over
ads right themselves.
Again, I wanted to call out, I fucking love these gyro balls though. Like, they would be a great exhibit IRL, even though I don't know how the physics adds up. But as an action set piece, like when these kids are getting attacked in the gyro ball, it's a very fun scene.
Yeah. It works. All the dino chase moments I think work, but it's just, I don't know. The movie started to blur a bit for me at this point when it's just like the Indominus Rex hunting people and creatures, and
I was very
I don't know.
sad. There was a scene where it was like a bunch of Littlefoot's mums, like all dead
yeah.
in the field. That was so
And Chris Pratt's like,
sad.
oh, he's just killing them for fun. And
Yeah,
it's at this point that they've bred a psychopath dinosaur because
I
they
like
had
turned
no
to Elliot.
mother.
I was like, I actually feel really
Yeah,
sad.
that was genuinely a gutting moment.
I
Yeah.
was so upset.
Oh,
Yeah.
And then they went back to the kids, and I stopped caring again.
yeah. No, that was more upsetting.
Yeah, I was more and more upset.
Yeah, the whole hunting for sport thing I thought was a funny hook because so often in this franchise, dinosaurs are just fucking murder machines that like are just constantly trying to eat people to the point where it has been a bit ridiculous.
Like they
Yes.
have to have been starved for weeks.
Yeah, and like it was just so funny that now, like we finally said, "Oh, this dinosaur just kills for the fun of it." I was like, "I'm sorry, but they've been doing
Yeah.
that for at least 3 movies." Like even in the first one, there were times it was like the dinosaurs just seemed to be killing for the fun of it.
Well, and then like 2 minutes later, the Indominus Rex accidentally opens up the bird cage, and then all the flying dinos leave and just immediately start killing everyone for no reason.
Yeah,
It's like, so how is the Indominus Rex different from these ones?
yeah, it's bizarre.
No, I think the Indominus Rex broke open that bird cage intentionally so that the pterodactyls would attack the helicopter, and then kind of using its dino hypnosis convinced the dinosaurs to go crazy and attack. That's in the same way that it convinced the velociraptors. It used its dino hypnosis.
I thought it just talked to them.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
sure.
what
Talking
the movie
is
implies.
low-level
But
hypnosis.
yeah, Reuben's idea that it just has dino control powers makes about as much sense as
it
the.
does.
It has like
I
5
really
other
think it
superpowers.
does.
Yeah,
It is funny that they do spend time. Chris Pratt talks about how they haven't just made a dinosaur, but it's actually a sociopath as well because its only friend
they
is the
raised
hook
it.
that feeds it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they raised it
It's
nicely.
such a
I did like
funny
that.
idea.
Yeah, that was actually a very cool part of it where you've got Chris Pratt explaining like, hang on, so you just raised this thing in total isolation.
In their defense, they did give it a sibling and it ate it. So they kind of tried.
It was already a psychopath before they had anything to do with it, I guess.
It's an abomination against God. Maybe it saw its sibling and was like, "I will save you, brother."
Yeah.
Fair enough. In another instance of people being terrible at their job, when the helicopter is chasing the Indominus Rex and shooting at it, they're just clearly shooting behind it. Like they clearly don't know how to aim, or it's like dodging the bullets like it's fucking the Flash or some shit. I don't know.
Yeah,
or like
yeah.
Speed of Sound Sonic from One Punch Man or whatever his name is,
or Sonic the Hedgehog. They put hedgehog DNA in it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they put Sonic the Hedgehog DNA in it. That's why it's so fast.
And you know, like again, this is just another one of those bits where like it seems ridiculous to me that the helicopter fell the way it did, but like, whatever. I mean, as you said, this like I'm beginning to wonder if it's these movies or if it's just me. But so many movies that we cover for this show have this lull from about 60 minutes to 80 minutes where I just stop paying attention and like, is this the way movies are structured, or is my focus that bad? I don't know what it is, but like,
it's just that
it's
maybe
so
they
recurring.
need to put in some time for people to go to the bathroom or something. I don't know what it is, but the 60 to 80 minute window is prime check your phone time.
Yeah, well, it's like this. It's like. Because it's a percentage thing too. Because I think we've covered a lot of 2 to 2.5 hour movies, and that it's like the same proportion of them. Where it'll be like, for those ones, it'll be like 90 minutes to 110.
Yeah,
where it's just like there's just a huge chunk where I'm just like, oh yeah, like whatevs.
Yeah, it's just kind of doing the same thing for 30 minutes, right? Like it's
it didn't get good again until the Velociraptors came as the kill squad.
Yes. Anyway, Vincent D'Onofrio takes control of the island and brings in more military forces in what can only be described as a pretty good idea, to be honest.
Because he brings the military and they've got all the guns and they don't use them because he wants to send the Velociraptor. It's just, it's bonkers. Like it's like surely in the real world this would be his thing where he'd just take over long term. It's just so funny to me that they fly all these military ships and stuff inside, but they didn't bring guns because they brought cameras for the Velociraptor. Like, no, just no.
I felt like my brain jumped straight to he felt like the person who was like, oh no, there's too many of these like beetles in Australia. We better bring some cane toads over. And then the cane toads just got worse. And so they're like, oh, well, then we better bring some other feral animal over to eat the cane toads. That's what it felt like. It's like, okay, so there's dinosaurs running amok. And so instead of taking over and, I don't know, using guns or something, you're going to just release more dinosaurs. Like it was even though it ended up working, it was a fucking stupid idea.
Like they're untested. They're littler dinosaurs. Like there's so many levels to which this is a bad plan.
It's totally contingent on. He's like, we're doing it with or without you to Chris Pratt. That plan was totally contingent on Chris Pratt's involvement. Bullshit. Yeah. Like, and then so Chris Pratt does it, and it only works maybe because he was there. Still a stupid idea.
I do love overall though. Like, his plan is dumb, and he's dumb, but like. I kind of like that part of Vincent D'Onofrio's whole takeover arc because like the way he does it is very funny. Like, because he's just from the get go, he's introduced in this movie, and he's like, "I want to use dinosaurs as weapons," and this whole movie is him using things getting worse and worse to get more control to do it, and it is just kind of funny and like true to him and kind of what the movie thinks it's doing about like the ideas around control. Like, I was actually kind of enjoying every time he would come on screen as things had gotten worse, and he was more smug and bitchy about it.
Well, because he became harder and harder to argue with. Sorry. He became harder and harder to argue with as like he kept arguing, like all these people are dying, these dinosaurs are killing all these people, and they kept just being totally incompetent and not stopping it at all.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, his idea was really stupid, but then as everything else...
So was everyone else's.
Yeah, as nothing else was done, it kind of ended up looking really good because it was just the only thing that anybody was suggesting.
Yeah. Just a funny plan overall, I thought. I really liked Vincent D'Onofrio and his character in this. Yeah. I mean, hot take, Vincent D'Onofrio, pretty good actor. But yeah, I really like it. As fucking nonsense as his whole arc is, I still thought it was actually pretty fun.
Yeah. Speaking of fun characters, we have the barest of characterization for Jake Johnson and Lauren Lapkus, who are both in this movie and don't really have anything to do either. Yeah. Again, cut the kids, give these two more of a role. Would have been more fun, I think, but, whatever.
Jake Johnson's character was interesting to me because I hated 50% of what he said and loved the other 50%. Like, he was a character I was either like, oh, he rules, or I fucking hate this guy. Mm-hmm. I find it interesting that you were seemingly so warm on him, considering I remember you hating everything about his character in New Girl, and I thought it was a very similar role.
Yeah, Jake Johnson has warmed me. I think with his role in Spider-Verse really is what did it for me.
Weird, but okay.
I guess is the same. I mean, he always plays the exact same character. Spider-Verse, New Girl, this, and fucking Mythic Quest. He's like the exact same character every time.
Oh shit! Yeah, he is. Yeah.
But you just can't help but love him,
Yeah, oh shit! You know what we haven't talked about? So like, because his love of the OG Jurassic Park is the very funny, like them paying homage to what the old movies were. But we totally skipped on. Like, there's a point where they end up in the OG Jurassic Park building and using some of the cars, and it's meant to be this kind of nostalgic moment that didn't really work for me. But like, part of me was also just like, no way in hell this isn't like a museum. Like, they've got a museum fucking on the side. It's like, no, you would reconvert this.
Yeah, totally.
Like, there would be people who would pay a lot to go there. It would have to be a memorial because something that's brought up constantly in the movie is like, poor taste, they died. But like, you could totally, this is the Bryce Dallas Howard's character in me right here. You could make a fortune off selling tickets to that memorial, like, and that's like exhibit of what the original Jurassic Park was. Turn it into a museum about John Hammond, about his victims.
Well, what it would be in, I would think, probably, hopefully, in real life, depending on what country we were talking about, it would be like a museum about, and it would discuss like the caution of like
what went wrong,
nature, and and all the things, except maybe not at this part because they do just keep doing all those mistakes over and over again,
Yeah.
so maybe not.
No, that could have been really funny, is have it be in development as that in the movie, and they end up in there, and we see some of it under construction. We see things that's talking about the mistakes the original park made that mirrors what's happening in this park. Like, that would have been really cool. Like, they should have set it up as, especially like a proper tribute to the original Jurassic Park. It's like, oh, this place isn't ready yet, but it's opening soon. Like, that could have been a really fun reference. God, Colin Trevorrow, call me.
Well, I don't think Colin Trevorrow is responsible for Jurassic World anymore.
I don't think they were planning on making any more. In fact, they were going to take away the previous ones if they had the power to.
Yeah, well, when we get to episode 7.
Didn't he only do this first one? Or did he do...
No, he did all 3, believe me.
Did he?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, so dinosaurs are loose on the island, and BDH realizes the only thing that can beat this dinosaur is other dinosaurs, so she lets the T-Rex free, and then all the dinosaurs team up on it and kill it. And it's just ridiculous. Again, as I say it, it's just ridiculous.
It's so stupid. It's so cool, though.
So we didn't talk about Morgana from Merlin or Lena Luthor from Supergirl. I forget the actress's name.
Katie McGrath.
Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Wait, who is this?
She was the babysitter for the two kids.
Sort of PA
the assistant. Yeah.
Yeah, nothing character in this film, but all worth it for the bit where she gets picked up by a pterodactyl.
It's so brutal.
And then falls into the water. Great action scene that ends with her and the pterodactyl picking her up, getting eaten by the Mosasaurus. Every appearance of the Mosasaurus is just 10 out of 10, but that one sets it up as like a killing machine more than it as a theme park attraction did, and is also just such a funny thing to do with such a nothing character like that.
It was so like unnecessary, brutal death, like super weird.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've just gone to Colin Trevorrow's IMDb page to double check my very confident statement that he did do all these movies. And he did, but he's also the executive producer for an upcoming TV series. No, not upcoming. It's already done. Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous. He was the EP for all 50 episodes.
A kids show?
Oh, yeah.
Animated TV show.
On Netflix. God, that looks terrible.
Right, next month.
Yeah.
We've got to do the Puss in Boots TV show first.
It depends. If people die in that, I'll watch it. A show about a bunch of kids going to... It's like a pile of kids. A show about a pile of kids going to a dinosaur island and getting slowly killed one by one. Sounds awesome.
I think describing them as a pile of kids is a dead giveaway that you're actually a dinosaur.
I'm already halfway to a pile of bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the movie. There's some other stuff in my notes, but we've kind of already talked about it. I don't know, like...
I wanted to say the refugee camp at the end, like, because something that's going on that doesn't really get enough credit in the whole of this movie is like how much the normal guests, the normies, are suffering throughout all this.
Yes. I mean, they're getting eaten by pterodactyls.
Yeah, like, which is a great scene, everyone getting eaten, but it sort of all culminates in this scene where they're kind of set up in this refugee camp where it's like a big warehouse and everyone's in fold-out beds and this is where tearful reunions are had, whatever. It looked just like the pictures from Firefest, and I checked the time. I think this movie came out before Firefest, but that was just so funny to me, because my head just instantly started comparing the events of Jurassic World to Firefest, and I thought that was very funny.
Yeah, fair enough.
I just love Firefest.
Firefest was very funny. So yeah, Jurassic World, great movie.
Sorry, yeah, and I think Georgia mentioned it. Just so I do need to call out again the bit where all the dinosaurs team up to stop the Indominus Rex because it's a dickhead. It's just complete nonsense, but I fucking love it. Like, the moment where the T-Rex and the Velociraptors sort of make eye contact and like, man, we got to fuck this guy up. I'm like, that is nothing but like, fuck yeah. Like,
I've just written in my notes, oh my God, I'm dying. This is the most ambitious crossover event in history.
Yeah, and then the Mosasaurus coming in at the end.
Yeah, but and then the T-Rex kind of gives them a nod and leaves at the end.
They look at each other like, we're best friends now, and then it just walks off.
That's not. Oh yeah. what a movie. I kind of love this movie. It's so dumb and bad, but I love it. It's weird.
And I was confused at the end. So Blue kind of looks at Chris Pratt, who shakes his head for some reason, and then Blue just runs off. And I was like, was he shaking his head, man?
I think he's saying, "Don't eat me."
Oh, I thought he was saying like, yeah, or like, don't come over here, or
I don't know.
Or no, you did a bad job. It could have meant anything, man.
The movie's a little confused about how much of a connection Chris Pratt has with the Velociraptors, which I actually think is realistic. Like with an animal like that, I think trainers have. Yeah, like you think about, who were those magicians where they had that lion for like 10 years and then it ate one of them.
Yeah,
Siegfried and Roy.
Tiger, but
yeah. Like you get some of those. So I think it actually kind of makes sense, but it is like it gets hard because they almost want to treat Blue as a character. Like she has a special name. She's the special Velociraptor.
She got blue on her.
Yeah, like they almost want her to be a character, but then they can't quite juggle that with having her be a wild animal that Chris Pratt doesn't know where he stands with her. Anyway.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear about Yaddle?
yeah. That's
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So they brought out this show, and this came out a while ago.
Is this Andor? What show are we talking about?
No,
Tales of the Jedi.
Yeah, it's called Tales of the Jedi. It was on Disney Plus. It's like 6 episodes in like the Clone Wars style, and it's just like little mini individual stories about different Jedi.
They're only like 15 minutes long each or something, are they? Yeah, it's really short.
Yeah, not really sure what the point of any of it was. But yeah, episode 4 of that show included Yaddle. Everyone's favorite Jedi, and I just thought we should talk about that here because
she is voiced by Bryce Dallas Howard.
One, and also we talked about Yaddle so much in the prequels when she came up. That was a bit of a recurring joke for a while, and I thought the fact that because this is peak Star Wars to me, is like an unused puppet got put in the back of a scene
with a wig.
Yeah, became a thing for a weird amount of lore to the point where now she stars in the episode of a TV show like 20 years later. That's fucking stupid. Classic Star Wars. I love it.
And it is classic Star Wars, though. It's like Boba Fett.
Yeah, exactly. And the first thing I wanted to call out, and I've seen people on like Twitter and Reddit talk about this too, but like she talks normal. Like she uses full sentences. This suggests that Yoda doesn't speak that way because his species has some weird thing. Yoda's just a fucking weirdo, I guess.
Wait, so Yaddle talks normally?
Yeah.
Well,
no,
like
that
this
can't
for
be
some
right.
reason, but she doesn't. She
doesn't do the backwards speak.
Yeah,
which that's like crazy.
It's crazy, right? Like the whole time, I just couldn't stop commenting on like Yaddle. I was like, I don't. Bryce Dallas Howard. She's doing like an old lady voice, and they could have just gotten an old lady. And also, the fact that she didn't talk in the Yoda syntax actually really bothered me. I was like, this doesn't make any sense.
So what? So the implication is just that Yoda's fucked up.
He's got some kind of like learning disability.
Brain damage.
I don't know.
Like
really specific learning disability.
Because I had always in my head assumed that it was like he spoke
it's a
like
species
Yodanese.
thing.
Yeah, or like not even a species thing as much as like his native language was Yodanese and he just had never learned English properly, or like hadn't felt the need.
Like sometimes French people who have French as their first language, or whatever, might mix up their verb tense, or
exactly.
Have a different language. It's hard sometimes to get the subject object verb order or whatever kind of in the right syntax. So that's my assumption, but clearly that's not the case.
Unless maybe Yaddle was crib napped earlier than Yoda.
Oh, interesting.
So maybe she learned English earlier.
I mean,
that's the only headcanon I can.
It raises questions for where the Mandalorian's going in a very interesting way because we need this answered.
I must know.
But yeah, just like in this animated episode of the Clone Wars, her hair was once again just so luscious, like just. Like she's this little green wrinkled goblin with just the fullest, richest locks of hair, and it's odd. It's just
actually
looks odd.
Also beautiful, thick red hair, just like Bryce Dallas Howard's hair.
Yeah. I mean, it was great because they got to do. I always love, especially in the Clone Wars, the Yoda lightsaber fighting, like all the hopping around and stuff. So I was fully on board with her for that. It was just, I don't know, like. And
it was a Dooku-centric episode, which has been really good.
Yeah, Yeah, that honestly, that the Tales of the Jedi got as close as I've ever seen to somebody actually doing something interesting with Dooku, which is what we talked about a lot at the time. Like the most interesting aspect of him is that point where he was falling to the dark side because the Jedi Order did suck, and he was right. And Tales of the Jedi basically chronicles that journey happening for him, where he realizes how shit the Jedi are. So that was like the most interesting portrayal of him. But yeah, mostly just had to bring up Yaddle, especially because she's voiced by Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yeah. And she actually agrees with Dooku in the end, just not his,
Well, yeah.
response to it. But she's like, yeah, I left the Jedi Council because you're right. They do suck.
Now, how about we don't do giant genocides?
Yeah.
And Dooku's like, nah,
no,
too late. I'm in.
Well, that sounds fun. Would you recommend this show?
I mean, if the sort of
it's
person,
not a big commitment either.
Yeah, if you're the sort of person who's interested in watching that stuff, like yeah, like it's. I think it's more for the sorts of people who would watch bits of the Clone Wars. Like it really is just little tales in the Star Wars universe, and if you're interested in that, then it's for you. Otherwise, like because they're all there's not really a strict like episode to episode progression. It is just like random snippets.
Whereas now I'm the only one in our family who hasn't actually watched Andor properly. I've seen, I think, a pretty good chunk of it while Hannah and Elliot have been watching it separately, and it's pretty good.
Oh, Andor's very good. Everyone
It's
should watch
really
Andor.
good.
It's not Star Wars, and that's why it's really good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like a really good sci-fi.
Yeah. Have you watched Andor, Reuben?
Nope.
No. I mean, on up there with The Peripheral. It is very good. Like, trust me, it's not like Star Wars at all. It's very good.
There's some stormtroopers in it every once in a while, and that's about it.
But yeah, it uses Star Wars imagery, but it doesn't use Star Wars like vibes or plot device.
Which the imagery is some of the best bit of Star Wars. It's like we've just got the cool imagery, and then we've just done a cool like sci-fi story that doesn't pertain to the widest. And I mean the only wider Star Wars thing it pertains to is the Empire and the sort of beginnings of the rebellion, which is I would also argue some of the better part of Star Wars. So
it's also generic enough for the purposes of Andor that it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it's rebels against a totalitarian empire.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean that's a recommendation that will be fucking old as time. I think Goofcast has probably talked about what the pros and cons of Andor better than we are right here. But yeah, I think that's it for this week or month.
You know what is our purview to talk about? Puss in Boots. That's what we talk about next month. There's nothing that's more us than a good Puss in Boots movie that's come out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Puss in Boots: The Last Wish comes out in cinemas a couple of days after we're recording this.
Yeah.
And so we're not going to do Jurassic Park 5 next month. We're taking a month off Jurassic World already because it's been too much. So instead we're going to watch Puss in Boots 2, which has been getting weirdly good ratings.
What do you mean
I'm so excited to see it.
You expect it to be bad?
Yeah? Were you not?
No, I was expecting
it
to be really good.
It's over 90s.
Puss in Boots movie was like pretty good.
Yeah. Last I saw it was over 90% on Rotten Tomatoes for both user and critics.
It's gonna roll.
Yeah, the cast it would be very good. Obviously Antonio Banderas, Selma Hayek, Harvey Guillen, who's from What We Do in the Shadows, Florence Pugh is in it, Olivia Colman is in it, which I kind of can't believe.
Oscar award-winning actress.
I know, best actress Olivia Colman. Yeah, it's just crazy. I don't know.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
I mean, based on the reviews for this movie, it's potentially going to be
beard on that trailer there.
Yeah, this is potentially going to be the best one since Shrek 2, so that's going to be odd. Anyway, so yeah, we'll be back to talk about that next month.
Yeah.
97% on the tomato meter.
Yeah, like very good reviews.
Wow.
I mean, I'm just looking at like everything else that's on here. That's
and in fairness, the first one didn't have terrible. Like the first one's was an 86%, which is not as good, obviously, but it's still pretty good.
Yeah, and that was a pretty good movie. That seems fairish. I'd maybe give it closer to mid-70s than mid-80s.
Yeah, but it wasn't terrible. But this one's going to be actually really good, and that's awesome.
I feel like I'm setting myself up for disappointment.
No, it's going to be awesome. Anyway. That's what we're talking about next month. So watch Puss in Boots and we'll talk to you all next month.
I can't wait to do a topical episode. I don't know that we've done that before. Oh shit, we forgot to mention this was our Christmas episode, and technically the first scene in this movie takes place at Christmas.
Yeah. Merry Christmas.
Suck shit, it's relevant, everyone.
I think the whole film takes place around Christmas time. It's not that bigger. Yeah. It's not that longer time period.
Oh no, it was like a 4-day flight to get there.
Oh, okay.
As we always say, bye
hoy, listeners, and get out of our swamp.
And also, no harm ever came from reading a book.
Reuben, I'm not doing it again until you do it.
Bye.
My solo.
No.